I recently posted about my mom. It was just a funny little blooper that we happened to happen in the video. My mother was referring to Ivy as she. Since Ivy started transitioning, she's referred to her as she.
It shows that someone who was born in the 30s, she's 86, right?
Yeah.
Was born in the 30s from like a different generation or a different time. Still, if they have their own time, can adapt and learn. And it shows that use of pronouns is about learning and respecting and giving time, and not about inability to do so.
My mom immediately started calling Ivy she,
yeah.
Right? And I knew that was going to happen because my mom's a very open, accepting, creative person. So I knew that she wouldn't have any issue with it whatsoever.
Right. She has a lot of empathy.
Yeah, she does. She has a lot of empathy. My father, on the other hand, he couldn't understand, poor guy.
I think he still doesn't know.
No, now he
knows.
does, because recently when I spoke to him, he said, how is Ivy doing? How's she doing at college?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So I was like, oh, props to you, Daddy.
Yeah.
But at first it couldn't compute. It's not that he was angry. It's not that he was upset. He just didn't understand that Ivy wasn't happy in her own skin. If my dad can be calling Ivy she,
After how long?
it's only been, how long's it been since
It's been 2 years.
2
2
years.
Or
It's
longer?
It's been, July.
It's not that long.
Since he's known.
It's July 22.
You know why it feels like longer than 2 years?
No.
So this is actually my anniversary next week.
Oh, muzzle tough. But you know why it seems longer?
Mhm.
Because she's authentically female. I remember your childhood.
Yeah.
To me,
I was always a girl.
no, but no,
Or in
it's
your
because
head.
no, I thought you were Anderson Cooper when you came out as gay initially. Remember, I said, oh, he's Anderson Cooper. No, I think it's because I saw immediately how much happier you were. as
You
female.
know why I think it's been longer?
Why?
Because I've thought about it so much. I think when you don't think about something as often, it feels like, different. When it's been on your mind a lot over a long period of time,
Yeah.
then it feels like a long time.
So how have you thought about it, the dad? Like,
Okay,
she's
falling
snoring.
asleep.
Maybe you should ask her. She's been very accepting.
she does. She doesn't care if anybody's purple with pink spots, as long as they're cuddling her.
Initially, it was a shock.
Yeah.
It was somewhat confusing because I had only known and visualized. I wondered if it was like going through a phase or a period that wasn't necessarily something that would be permanent. And just it was confusing to me.
You think it was more confusing to you because you're male?
I think it's possible. I don't know. I think
This is going to sound very academic.
Okay. That's part of your MO, so let's hear it.
I don't necessarily think it's confusing because he's born male, on like sort of ontologically in terms of his being is male. It's not that. I think it's that for a lot of dads and just for a lot of men generally, unfortunately, they grew up with an emotional vocabulary that is made to be more limited in terms of comparison between genders. A lot of times, confusion is sort of a stand-in for lots of other emotions, but if you don't have the processing tools or the vocabulary to unpack that confusion, then it stays as confusion.
I think initially my nurture played a bigger role because I grew up in a traditional home.
Right.
And I think over time my nature became the dominant force. You know what I mean? Because I'm so different today than I was 2 years ago.
Yes, very much.
I wouldn't say I wasn't accepting. I was kind of in this gray area where like I didn't know what to think.
Right.
It was too new, it was too different, and it was uncomfortable, right, for several months. Over time, I realized that it's what she really wanted and that it was who she really was, but that probably took 12 to 18 months.
That's so interesting.
But I think I have a tendency to kind of keep those kind of all of the thoughts inside.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that a lot of men do. Is a lot of men
But then
don't talk
Keep it
about their
inside.
feelings
They were taught at a very young age
to
not
compartmentalize.
So it went from confused, uncertain, questioning, a place that I've never been before in terms of someone that close to me, to gradually accepting, embracing, and then it really turned more to worry.
Yeah.
Worry about her happiness and her safety, and thinking about how uncomfortable it probably is for her often when she's in environments where, you know, you don't necessarily reveal it right away or to people you just meet, and just feeling badly for her about the awkwardness and stress and anxiety relating to living with that aspect all the time.
And that's not going to go away for us.
Right.
I don't think, as a parent, that's going to go away.
Yeah. It's more it's not that it needs to be fixed, it's that other people have to open their hearts and minds a little more over time.
Right. And if they don't, you could be in danger or they could hurt you. And that's very hard on us.
And
That's hard. Like when you go out to a party, I don't sleep until I get a text
Yeah.
that says I'm home.
And
That's
that's
true.
and that's what it would have been like if I was born a girl too.
Oh, 100%.
and you wake me up in the middle of the night.
And that, I think, is also, yeah,
sad-
I wake him up in the middle of the night. But I think that's also a sad state of society that when she was male, I wasn't as worried
Yeah, about me going out. with
about you
friends.
going out with friends.
And I
And
was also younger, but I
yeah,
wasn't at the point yet. But,
right.
But still.
I also think it's why Ivy and I talk about academics so much,
I think
because I think there's a couple of reasons. One, I think because,
They're both very cerebral. There's that.
well, I don't know about that, but she is.
I
But
don't know if you-
because she excels so much at it and she works so hard at it, and I'm so proud of her, you know, in that respect. But also I see it as a vehicle for her to find so much joy and happiness and purpose in life because she has such a passion. And I want her, you know, to have as much joy and happiness. And it just, I think it eases my mind to talk to her about it because of the possibilities for her.
Anybody who has passion, I'm always talking about that. If you have something in your life that filters so that you can shut off your busy mind, because we all have a busy mind and we all have stuff.
It's a non-Western sort of concept of understanding emotions and rationality. That there's your wise mind, which is, you know, knows what's best for you.
Yeah,
Your emotional mind, which is how you feel in a moment given other people.
right.
And there's your rational mind, which is what you think you should do, and not what you know you should do. And so at any given time, there's like a convergence of those three things. But you kind of have to, something I talk about, is figure out how to quell the emotional mind and find a balance between them. Because all emotions are valid. Everyone thinks that like jealousy and confusion and sadness are bad emotions. They're not bad emotions. They're just emotions. We're wired to have them as a survival mechanism. But in terms of, you know, balancing your stress and anxiety, there's a way to balance the three, to not just focus on your rational mind or your emotional mind, but also lean into your wise mind
Yeah.
and lean into what you know is best.
You can't only be passionate about something. You also have to be logical about the thing
Right.
for sustainability, for something to last a long time. It's like marriage, honey. I mean, sometimes I want to murder you, but at the same time, I love you. I see our relationship as a commitment. In the beginning, it was like roses and chocolates and rainbows. And now it's better because it's more solid. And there are times where he still doesn't pick up his socks, right? And my emotional mind might want to kill him.
Yeah.
But my rational mind knows that if he were actually dead, I'd be miserable, right? So I temper those feelings.
Or you try to.
I try to.
Do you think you're more of an optimist or a pessimist?
I think being trans has made me a pessimist.
Aww.
In terms of what aspect?
I mean, I've had a lot of joy in these past 2.5 years. And I've met lovely people, and I've been happier than I ever have. But in terms of like my perception of the world, that's gone down a bit. Maybe it's half and half. Because on one hand, you have people like Grandpa, who's saying, "How's Ivy doing?" And he's like literally born in the 30s, like before World War II. And then, on the other, there's just the fact that people fear what they don't know, and that more Americans say they've seen a ghost than know a trans person. 18% say they've seen a ghost. So
Really?
18%.
Oh. Well, ghosts, I mean,
I
I kind of believe in the spiritual.
But even
and
so, you know what I'm saying.
Right.
That we're
Where'd you
considered
read
more
that?
Huffington Post.
Really?
That we're considered more like supernatural or whatever.
You know what I think, why you're a little bit of a pessimist? Or half
Also,
and half?
Yeah.
Because I think that when you first came out and when you first started going to university, you thought that you would go and the issues of being trans would not follow you.
Would not follow me in a more liberal place.
Right.
And they of course do.
Yes.
And a new environment.
Yes.
A new environment, yeah.
Yes.
That as well.
Right.
Of
But
course
here's
do.
the good news, is that you're only 20.
I'm only 20.
And the world is changing quickly. And as you age, you'll mature and you'll maybe realize that there's hills and valleys.
There's definitely hills and valleys. I mean, one thing I've talked about a little bit with other
Trans
other
kids.
dolls, other trans women, is just, I mean, there's always like this saying of it gets better that we kind of pass around between each other, because it does get better.
Right.
Like massively better. But it doesn't mean it's always going to be good.
No.
And especially that first year, even if you are in a liberal place, it's just very, I don't know the word, tragic in a way. It's just, it's a very, the first year is always the worst.
Disappointing?
It's just that, yeah, the first year is the worst. And then you learn to find your own happiness and make your own happiness and do the things that matter to you and find your passions and things like that.
So I've got a question related to that. So now, when are you at your best emotionally, or in the best place emotionally? Like what's happening around you?
Well, first and foremost, when I talk to you guys very regularly, when I talk to them regularly is like a prerequisite to kind of anything else. And I think that kind of goes as a message to other parents of trans kids on here, or just like trans kids listening, but really more directed to the parents, that it is so much harder for the kids to be happy if the parents
Aren't accepting.
aren't accepting
And aren't working at it.
and aren't working.
Yeah, because
you're
you
only-
work at it.
you're
It's not like rainbows and snowflakes.
Right.
I go to a therapist. You go to a therapist. I tell you what I went or learned at the therapist.
You tell me that I shouldn't go to a therapist.
There's a correlation. I would not be able to thrive in school if I didn't have supporting good parents. And I know a huge amount of my trans friends whose parents are not nearly as supportive as you guys. And I don't want to say are thus, struggling in school, but I think there's a correlation. I think that when you don't have the foundation, it's impossible for you to thrive into adulthood in any respect. And you always say you're only as happy as your happiest child for a parent.
Yeah.
I think for trans kids, you're only
As you're unhappiest.
or unhappiest, yeah.
Unhappiest.
I think for trans kids, it's kind of the reverse. Is that you're only as
Happy as your most unhappy parent.
parent about who you are.
What about
But and also that goes for dating too. Like something that a lot of my trans friends say is, I'm not going to date someone who doesn't like themselves.
That's good.
Yes, good. That's the point.
But that should be
That should be
anyone.
anyone.
That
That
has
should be
nothing to do with being trans. If you don't like yourself, it's going to be very hard to find somebody to love you.
Well, it's just going to be very hard to actually achieve what is like a mutual building respectful love. Like,
And
I read
a love with forgiveness
Yeah.
and a love with grace and a love, because if you can't forgive yourself certain traits or aspects or mistakes that you've made, there's no way you're forgiving anybody else.
Can I continue my question?
yeah, I want to hear you.
Yes,
That's
go
more
ahead.
important.
Okay. So it's the same question, but take us out of the equation, because I'm really curious. So when you're at college, when are you in the best place emotionally? What's happening around you?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
Who are you around? What are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm an extrovert, And so I like to be around lots of kind people. Like, I do well around more than a few friends. I love being surrounded by people who I can laugh with. I think laughter is very important. I need something that is keeping me going, that is not necessarily driven by other people. Like the validation or happiness or support of other people. And so for me, my outlet is my writing. Even if you're like an engineering student or a politics or maths or whatever student, doesn't matter what you said. Even for them, it's not like a problem set or whatever is keeping you going. It's something that you are doing for your own good, like learning a language or like I know tons of my friends who are like math, majors taking a Spanish class, and that's like really driving them is to like learn a foreign language that they wanted to learn forever.
Yeah.
So far you've said, being around kind people, often many people laughing.
I think it is the most important one for me is laughter. Because I think honestly not everything has to be so serious.
No.
I think everything is so serious. I don't want to say nowadays because everything always seems serious. And I feel like at college people always take them very seriously, like take themselves seriously. But when you can laugh about things, it minimizes the grief of everything else. And so that's for me when I'm happiest. Also when it's nice weather. I'm not happy when it's cold.
Really? Oh, I love the cold.
You might have gone to the wrong
I love
place.
the cold. That's actually why when we started doing our get readies with me, right? In the closet, I felt in the beginning when I was never confused, but I was scared as shit for you and for us.
Well, I remember it was always, how are you going to be happy?
Yeah.
That was always the parents' biggest fear.
Yeah.
It was not
for me.
Long term.
Yeah. It was. It was never like I don't want you to be trans.
No, I couldn't give a flying patootie. It was.
How are you going to be happy romantically, emotionally, educationally, and in terms of employment?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know about employment. I didn't even think about that.
Well,
I know. No, I was thinking about.
She wasn't
I was
worried about
thinking about the joy that I get out of life.
Yeah.
Comes from me being very comfortable with who I am.
Well, that's great.
Right.
That's not the reality. I don't think that's a reality for kids, period.
No, for sure not.
I don't
for
even
sure
think-
not kids.
I don't know.
No, but for now, like looking
Right. I don't
back.
know my age. Who has
Looking
that yet.
back, no, I was a mess at your age too, just because I was a kid
Right.
and I didn't know much.
And you're probably a mess at 30 and 40 too.
Yes. As I guess because I'm now 57, it's less of an issue for me. But for my kid, it's. I mean.
But how long have you been like that? Would you say?
Yeah,
Since
that's
when?
my question.
Have you felt really comfortable in your skin? And
I mean, I do know some people my age who are comfortable in their skin. I mean, we all are comfortable in our skins. Like, it's all, I don't mean to
I grew
you can't know for other
into it.
people.
I grew into it. Okay, and it took a long time.
Right.
But I wasn't sure if she ever would, because how can you possibly take yourself out of your body? You can't.
I think you were in your 20s.
No. Are you kidding me?
You acted like you were.
Of course I acted
Well,
like
that's
I
what girls
was.
do.
That's what girls do.
Yeah.
We're shitting bricks behind closed doors,
Yeah.
right?
Same with boys.
After Amsterdam? Were you? Or so?
Honey, I was insecure for a very long time. I'd say until my early 40s.
Maybe it depends. Maybe.
And then it
That's
started to
interesting.
dissipate.
But maybe it's a question of which part, right? Like, I don't think you were insecure about your design.
No,
No, but like your work and your. I don't
yeah.
think you were insecure socially.
It wasn't that I was insecure socially.
What were you insecure about?
Well, I just think girls are made to be insecure about how they look.
There's a lot of that.
I mean,
There's a lot
boys
of
too,
that.
of course, but I like.
Yeah, for girls, it's, I think,
Because
for women, we're unfortunately, if we're not perfect in our minds, if we're not showing our best selves,
Right.
we feel somewhat badly, which is garbage.
Right.
It's garbage. But it's
I mean,
indoctrinated
Not for all women, but for a lot of women.
for a lot of women.
Yeah.
For a lot of women, it's really important when they're 16 to be really pretty and to stay on that mountain for a very long time.
You know, I'm about to say this and I use like an anti-aging toner or whatever when I go to sleep. But with the anti-aging obsession of girls, when I was at camp, which was a very hard time for me, not due to camp, just due to gender and isolation and loneliness. Even 10 years ago, when I was 10, the environment of a camp was so different. Like, I read an article in the New York Times about how you have girls bringing, like genuinely, like girls, like little girls bringing, like, whole makeup bags and skincare routines and retinols to camp. And they're, like, 11. And, I don't know, that, like, just goes to show how, in relation to the, you know, the cultural obsessions, that it has an impact on our youth. Yeah.
Can I ask one more question before I have some lasagna and garlic bread?
Yeah.
He's so excited about his garlic bread. I'm so surprised she's been sitting for this long. She's been good.
My last question is kind of the opposite of the earlier question.
When do you want
just,
to have this?
Yeah, just as you think about college, when are the times when you're emotionally not in a good place?
When she calls me 7 times a day, and then I don't hear a word for a week, I know she's fine. That's
you
when.
didn't say that. But what's going on? What's going on that would be, as you think about what to avoid, maybe, or what to minimize?
Yeah,
to some extent.
Just like in terms of like being on my own. Not, I mean, in college, yes, but more just, I think it's not even the college part, it's the being independent. Like being away from family, moving in the transitional period between adulthood and youth.
You don't ever have to do that.
Well, I'm going to. Someday.
So more so when you're alone? And
Now I'm alone, but like, I just meant like this will apply for trans people who are also in their 20s. And I mean, I'm in my 20s, but you know what I mean? Like post-grad, or who just didn't go to school and are away from their parents. And are doing other stuff.
So you're lonely?
Well,
you think?
I think the loneliness is a big thing.
Maybe it's the unknown too.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the loneliness, the unknown. A lot of times it's when I have time to think for myself, which is a part of myself that I'm trying to work on, is to, you know,
be okay with
myself. Like be okay going to the dining hall alone.
Yeah.
And not scheduling a meal with someone.
Right.
Or being okay having a few hours to myself on the weekend, not working or seeing friends, and just doing something for my own leisure. And those are the times when I find, you know, they should be the most like liberating to have like you would die to have 3 hours to watch a show or read Sylvia Plath.
Yes, I would.
Or whatever.
Yes, I would.
But for me, I mean, I do love that, but inevitably it leads to like a spiraling sort of sensation of anxiety, which I'm working on with my therapist.
Right.
But, you know, where the unknown and comes about. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's because you're not being distracted by other things.
Yeah, that's the
so all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I'm sitting in exactly who I am exactly right now, and it's freaking you out.
Are you in your dorm room generally when this is happening, would you say? Or
I
not
think
necessarily?
my dorm room is a safe space. I think that's very important that that
you have
some sort of safe space to yourself. Yeah. But I mean, at night in my bed, So I guess in my dorm room there.
Maybe this also back to, remember you said that when it's a beautiful day, that you're in a better place.
Well, because I'm outside. I'm like genuinely outside of my room and outside of the place where I can be alone with myself. I mean, often I'm alone with myself outside. Like I go on nice long walks in Providence and things like that. But and there's also an activity aspect to it. Like when I'm outside, I'm walking and I'm getting vitamin D, and my heart is pumping, and I'm waving to friends, and you know, whereas I'm just in my room on my phone or whatever.
Well, I think the demons are going to come out when there's no other distractions,
and
for sure.
At night more so. Okay, I'm gonna go heat up the garlic bread.
He wants a garlic bread. Okay, hold on. We have to wrap this.
Yeah, we have to wrap it.
Okay.
We're wrapping now, and what I guess we're going to say is,
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Well, yeah, you could say something. What you're going to say.
But the only thing I was going to say is, you know, I've always gotten this comment thing whenever Ivy and I are on.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, first about, where's the father? Where's the father? Well, like he's right here.
Yeah,
you know, and he's very much involved in, can I call this a family transition? Is it a family transition? I don't know what's politically correct.
We can have
To
people debate in the
me,
comments.
to me, it's a bit of a family transition.
I mean,
because
to me, it's my gender transition, and to me, my family has to adapt to my gender transition.
and therefore it's
But
a
I would
family
use the word.
transition.
I would use
Doesn't
the
it
word
kind of
adapt
feel like
and not transition.
We've already transitioned.
Well, I don't think. Well,
As a
there's a
family?
misconception.
No
As a family?
way,
Well, 'cause, like,
Jose.
what are you gonna do at my wedding?
What?
Right.
My wedding. I think
right.
about my wedding every day of my life.
Right.
Maybe it's a male thing.
I
Where,
think-
where I'm kind of like in the place where accept, embrace, let's go forward. Things are getting better. She's in a better college. She seems happier, and better times ahead. Not like we have.
That's so funny. Because
not-
every day of my
not
life,
like what?
Because maybe
you never think
I
about
don't know if
walking
it's a
me down the aisle.
What?
You never think about that.
Well, I guess I never have about either of my kids.
I think about that like every day.
No, I mean, because I don't think the actual, like, something like the act of walking down the aisle to me is not so important. Do I think about and care that you're going to find someone that you're going to love? Yeah, that's what's important.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't think about the event. No,
100%.
That's not me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's important for us to show.
Can I also say?
Yes, go ahead.
My two things. The first one, so don't forget, is that transition is not A to B. Transition is not point A to point B. And I thought it was. I thought it's, you get on your hormones and you do your voice therapy and you get your family to accept you and you wear feminine clothes and you give it time and you're a woman. And that's so not it. Like, that's just like what I thought when I was 17. And I think reframing that in everyone's mind is important because it's not point A to point B, it's point A to happiness. And point A to happiness in your skin and confidence in who you are and all these other things that are not at all bound by gender or any other like social classification. And so that's like a reframing. So it's not like the transition's over for the family or the adaptation is over for the family. It's that it's a continuous sort of line.
But isn't that life?
Yeah, that's the point. That's
I mean, in general, like you can take the transness out of the equation.
right.
Happiness is always the end goal and the end game to any of us as humans. But we also have to realize, and what's helped me with some of Ivy's demons and some of my fear of what she's going to go through, is that I say in my head, everybody's got something. Everybody's got stuff.
Yeah.
And even if I completely understand that a transitioning person's stuff is stuff.
Well,
Okay,
it's not
it's
even
stuff.
It's just,
But there's
it's different.
it's everybody, right, but you can't look at the goal to be happiness 24/7
Right.
for the rest of your
No,
life.
I don't.
Never be
I don't
for
wake up
anyone.
and think. I never wake up and think, "What can I do today to make myself happy?"
No,
I think,
but-
"What am I having for breakfast and when's class and when am I
Right.
having lunch and where are my
But on
friends?"
the days or the hours or the weeks where you feel really down, you have to realize that life is just a cycle of hills and valleys.
She's
But
taught
maybe
me that
that's
forever.
part of the difference. Like, I never think about happiness.
He's so.
No, I don't. I mean, but I think maybe it's a big difference. Like, for me, it's much more about embracing and accepting the flow of life in a genuine way, which I've fortunately been able to do, and comfortable with that accepting philosophy, and yes, being able to shift my mind often to a place of gratitude and thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for and fortunate. And
He's much better at that than
he's
us.
very good at that.
He
But
is.
it's
I
not,
also,
he's much
I don't know
better.
if it's good or bad, but it's just, I think everyone has to have their own
What's that noise?
method of thought that works for them and that puts them in a comfortable, in a good place.
I also
and
think
puts me in a good place. I'm not thinking, what can I do to be happy? I never think about that.
Yeah, I also don't think it's like a one size fits all sort of thing.
Right.
And I guess this is more like a message to the viewers in some way. But I mean, I don't know what's
I
there's
don't
something
know.
happening outside.
You know what makes me
Maybe
happy?
they don't hear it.
He makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does make him happy.
She does.
Obviously, something we talk about in therapy a lot is gratitude. But something that we also talk about is for people who have experienced trauma, which is a large portion of the population, but not everyone, but a large portion of the population, you have to give yourself the grace to not always make yourself be grateful. Like, it's okay to let yourself feel and sort of purge these emotions that you might have as a result of the trauma, but you don't have to kind of force a gratitude or happiness, because that can be toxic in and of itself. You have to give yourself time.
Yeah, you have to give yourself, 100%.
So that's also important to know, and something that I do for myself too.
Yeah.
Like, rage is an emotion that I'm working on feeling more. Because, and for you too, like and for everyone, but for us too, like there have been things in our life that we should be rageful about. And that is okay to feel that rage and to feel it can help you live with it.
Okay.
I think it makes me stronger. But anyway.
My back cannot sit like this anymore.
His back can't sit like this anymore, so he's going, and I'm just going to close by saying, I hope that there are other families going through their own family change, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be their kid transitioning, although, I do want to speak specifically to those parents. The more we can talk with our kids about how they're feeling, and the more they feel safe coming to us, the easier a time they are going to have walking through life.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And that's that. Okay.
And here's my dad. He's real.
There's Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye, everyone.